Are you looking to scale your real estate business with data and analytics, but you're not exactly sure how to get started, where to hire it out to, and what are some of the benefits? Well, don't worry, because I'm going to cover all of this within a few easy steps. My name is Ariel Herrera with the AnalyticsAriel channel, where we bridge the gap between real estate and technology. I have 7 years of experience in the data analytics space, from a data analyst position all the way to data science, so I know exactly what are some of the skills that you may need for your business. If this is the type of content that you enjoy, then please like it, as well subscribe to this channel so you get the latest tips and tricks for tech within real estate. All right, let's get started. Cool. So right now we're looking at the data collection process page, a document I put together based on a lot of frequent questions that I got from investors, agents, appraisers, and others in the space. One of the number one questions I get is, how do I get data from my county website, from a social media site, web scrape it, aggregate it, and then understand where some of my new leads can come from? Well, actually, this is a lot simpler to be able to implement and can be done all by the person who wants to do it, even without any technical skills. I'm going to quickly walk through this document guide and then actually show you how you hire out people on Fiverr to do some of these tasks for under $100 and sometimes even at $5. All right, so starting with the first part is the overview of collecting data. So this is intended for a non-technical audience. If you want to be able to go through this document on your own, feel free to click the link below to get the actual link for this. So the background here is that real estate entrepreneurs want to be able to get data for their local area. And that's what makes real estate really special, because it is hyper-localized. So one zip code may have more opportunities in terms of growth, location, rentals, job growth as well, than the next door zip code. So it's hyper localized, which means you need to have a lot of information, especially if you don't have the foots on the ground, if you're, say, like an out-of-state investor. So to get some information that's really useful is being able to get news data, as well as being able to get information on people who may be more likely or motivated to sell their property. So there's a bunch of tools that help you to start to get lists of these motivated sellers. You could use tools like PropStream as well as ListSource to be able to extract lists of motivated sellers. However, the caveat here is that because, pretty much all investors have access to these tools if they have the funds, what advantage is it if everyone else has access to the same data? Well, one, being really hyper-focused helps, but two, being able to bring multiple data sources. So not just one Excel file. Think of, say, 5 Excel files where you can overlap them and determine where some hidden opportunities is really the value. So how do you acquire these data sets that are not easily available? First, to understand why you should hire out automation and not just give it to a VA simply. So I've heard of investors who are trying to get started and they just offload a lot of things to VAs, including hiring VAs or virtual assistants offshore for a low cost of money to click through websites and document data. Well, the reality is we live in 2021, so we have Python skills and automation tools to be able to do this automatically on a repeatable basis, that you could put your VAs to more important tasks like actually cold calling, analyzing, or helping to get data to analyze a deal, and more, not just clicks. As well, when you're offloading certain work to VAs, like writing down things that are on a website, humans are more prone to errors, so you can have mislabeling or missing data as well. And as I said before, it could be a waste of resources. So one of the key things to understand are, what are some common technical roles to begin with? So for one, web scraper. What is actually a web scraper? Say if you want to get data on the internet, have it in a consumable fashion like an Excel file, what you could do is hire someone out to basically take that text and bring it to you in an easily consumable format. And the person who does this is a web scraper. It's relatively a low skill job. So someone who has basic Python knowledge, can understand how to read and follow certain blogs, would be able to replicate a lot of these tasks. That really translates to mean that you can hire a web scraper to get data off of foreclosures, county websites, things like that for relatively low cost. And some of the common languages they use are Python and JavaScript. It's a little bit out of scope for me to go into what the differences between the two are, but for what I could tell you is Python is preferable in terms of being able to use for all purpose, so being able to manipulate data sets, communicate with the web, all sort of techniques, whereas JavaScript is a little bit more for like web server, a little bit more front end. Okay, so now you have your data, you got a web scraper to give you the data. What if you want to be able to analyze this, say on a website? You want to be able just to click, the web scraping tool goes, and then you get an Excel file back. Well, the person who creates web pages, things of that nature, are usually full stack web developers. So full stack meaning front end, they create the visual where you could go on the website, click through it, and then back end, they're able to handle like housing that data so that in the future you could go back and say, oh, what was that data set of foreclosures I looked at February 1st of 2022? Well, a full stack developer has the knowledge of having that database, so you'd be able to have a holistic app there. The skill sets are pretty much medium to high level of difficulty. You could find a lot of offshore availability for full stack web developers. Depending on the complexity, it could be as low as say $250 all the way to a couple $1,000, but still a really great way to get started if you want to have a customizable website or some tools. A use case here that I have is, say if you want to build a website that analyzes properties where a user just puts in 122 Main Street and gets some information back. That would be an example of when you need a web developer to create that whole process, not just a scraper. There's two more here that I have, which is great to touch upon. So data analyst and data scientist. Now, if you have all this data, you're not sure how to maybe rank the best leads because maybe you have at this point 10,000 leads, but you don't have the funds to send mailers to all these leads. Well, how do you concentrate on the leads that are the most motivated to sell? Well, the person who can help you aggregate all of that data is a data analyst. They could create a dashboard for you that you could go into daily or weekly, see the top properties, see trends in the area, and understand if you need to make actions or pivot. Now, if you want to do something like forecasting, kind of how Zillow does in terms of Zestimates, and being able to say home value forecasts in general, that's where you would get a data scientist to create that proprietary data for you. Great, so now you have the knowledge of the 4 different types of roles that work with data, which is web scraper, full stack developer, data analyst, and data scientist. When to bring them in, what the skill level is, you could start to be able to hire out these services individually. However, if you're still unsure of where to get started and who you need to reach out to for each point, that's where I come in. Since I have a lot of knowledge in this data analytics space, I come in as a tech consultant, so you could feel free to reach out to me directly on my website and set up some free time to discuss. But going back now, say if you know what to do, what is the actual process that you take? So I'm going to go through an example using BiggerPockets data. We're at the BiggerPockets rental calculator, which if you want a full overview of it, please go to my video linked below, where I actually go through the tool and pros and cons. For this purpose, I want to go through a manual process to show how you would use a web scraper to be able to automatically do this for you. So from the BiggerPockets rent calculator, if you go to zip code, you can enter in a zip code within the search bar, select number of beds and baths. In this case, let's imagine in South Amboy, we're buying a property for 3-bed, 2-bath, or considering to buy a property. We want to understand what the rent would be to see if we actually be able to cash flow. We could see here what the median rent is, what the confidence score is, and then we get some other rich information below too. Well, it would be really hard to do this for say 10,000 properties back to back, right? You would definitely take up a lot of time and resources. So this is a great example of how web scraping comes into play. Now going back to the process, step 1 is defining your goal. So in this case, our goal is to be able to get rental data for a list of properties, property addresses, and we want to be able to do that off of the BiggerPockets website. So that's number 2 as well. It's basically coming off the web. Number 3 would be, what are the different inputs and outputs that I'll be putting in? Am I going to be inputting a zip code? Am I going to be inputting an address? That's important to get those specifics down. Then for output, what do I actually want back? So in this case, for the BiggerPockets rental calculator, I want to be able to get the median rent. I want to get the confidence score as well. And then maybe some of these comparable properties too. So define that. Now the next step is critical. This is your requirements document template. For those who are in the tech space, you'll be familiar with these kind of documents, but if you're not, that's okay too. They're easy to put together. So in this example, what I would do is put your company name into Google Docs. You could take this template in the links below. So I put your company name, your web scraping, what you're looking to do. In this case, it's BiggerPockets, and then list your requirements below. So I have this put into 3 different sections. So easy. So the parameters, these are the things that I'm going to be inputting into the website, would be the street address, the number of bedrooms and bathrooms as we saw. And what I expect to get as an output is that median rent. And then in some cases, BiggerPockets provides the low rent and high rent, so that range. And then also the median rent if it's available for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom for that zip code. Then the next section is process. So I basically just take screenshots. If you're on a Mac, just do Shift-Command-4. You take screenshots and then you add little either text or squares around what the exact steps would be. Please make this as baby-proof as possible. So very simple. Go to BiggerPockets homepage. Step 2, click login. Step 3, put in the email, put in the password. So this is what someone would manually do if they were to go and do the step-by-step. You would then go to the property report, you would put in the address and the parameter, and these are the exact fields that I'm looking to get back. And I have squares showing exactly what are those fields, how many of those fields. So the expectation is this manual process of recording this information would be web scraped. And in the case of someone like me, since I have the programming skills, I want the code for this in Python. Someone like you may not want the Python code. You may just want the Excel file and maybe communicate with the web scraper. Hey, if I pay you $5 weekly, would you be able to run this same script for me? A lot of things are negotiable within the Fiverr space. So now that you have this document showing the inputs, outputs, the manual process, you would then go to Fiverr, or you go to Upwork as well, or give your shot at Craigslist too. And you would go to your services. In this case, we're looking for a web scraper. So you would type in web scraper, go to search. And what I normally do is I'll go through people's profiles. I'll look to see what do they include. This person includes extensions. Don't really need that, but they also have database skills, which is awesome. So I might contact the seller, get a quote, and then this is the part where you attach your requirements document. You basically say, what is your goal, which you said before in step 1. Define your goal, you have your requirements document. Please provide me a quote on how much this would cost. Get this quote between 2 or 3 different Fiverr freelancers, and then select one. This is someone that I highly recommend. He's done web scraping for me in the past and has done a fantastic job with very quick turnaround. Now, if you're looking to actually web scrape and follow these steps for BiggerPockets, it actually doesn't work. They have a high level of security when it comes to detecting bots going in and out of logging into their website. But when it comes to county websites, they don't have as much security, so it's a lot easier to be able to get this done. Now, the very last step of this is you select your freelancer. They're able to either provide you code or the Excel file back. You review it, and what's great about Fiverr is you can go back and forth. So just because they sent you something doesn't mean it's final. you can actually get revisions as well and work with this freelancer in the future for more upcoming projects. As a heads up, something like this type of project for web scraping should be between $20 to $40, which is really, really great because you're able to offload that to an expert for a really low cost and be able to automate and systematize your business. So this is the kind of content you enjoy on getting tips and tricks to systemize your business and improve your space within real estate, then please subscribe to this channel as well, like this content. Thanks.